The assault on Deep Space Nine to stop the disarmament of the wormhole minefield was one of the first large-scale offensive moves against the Dominion by the Federation alliance. Codenamed Operation Return, because codenames are meant to reflect the actual offensive you are about to conduct, and not hide the overall goal in case enemy intelligence officers get the name, the plan combined Starfleet and Klingon forces in a bid that would either stall for time in the war, or be such a catastrophic loss that a Dominion victory was ensured. When analyzing the war up to this confrontation, it's easy to see that in the nearly 5 months of constant defeat, you had demoralized Starfleet and Klingon forces. The Federation alliance needed a win that would not only gain momentum but inspire the frontline soldiers to keep fighting. Ultimately, it was decided that the best strategic attack would be on Deep Space Nine. While there was some worry that this would draw forces from critical fronts, including that of the Vulcan border, Starfleet Admiralty would ultimately approve it. Before the offensive would be implemented, it was discovered that the Dominion had found a way of disabling the minefield, meaning that if Starfleet couldn't get to Deep Space Nine fast to stop them, the war would be over with no hope. This would cause the plans to be rushed, and Starfleet would have to launch without a large segment of its forces. This included the 9th Fleet specifically, as well as their Klingon allies. So with no other option, and working in 3D space, which granted the ability to go in virtually any direction and curve around enemy vessels, allowing Starfleet to easily outrun Dominion counterparts, the Admirals would send all of their forces directly at the Dominion blockade, even though they were outnumbered 2-1. Before the overall confrontation, the Federation fleet of around 600 ships would come to a stop facing the Dominion blockade, which had around 1,254 ships. Sisko would initially order that the cruiser and Galaxy Wings come to half impulse, the Defiant taking the same position and speed as them, and then direct the attack fighters to engage with tactical pattern Theta and target only Cardassian ships. The hope being to pull Cardassian vessels out of position, thus opening up a hole that Starfleet forces could break through. The Starfleet fighters would start to absolutely pound on the Cardassian forces. Unfortunately, Starfleet fighters, being, starfighters, would get absolutely decimated if even hit once by the Cardassian forces. Once doing their attack, however, they would turn around and run like hell. It's interesting to watch the tactics here. When the second wave of fighters are ordered to attack, Sisko also tells Destroyer Units 2 and 6 to move in, attempting to give these fighters cover fire without getting into the fight directly. However, he'd also be watching to ensure that the Dominion didn't try to move into a flanking position while they were trying to draw them out. The Federation forces would continue their antagonizing runs against the Cardassians, and ultimately it would appear to yield good fruit as some of the forces would move off after the fighters. However, Sisko recognizes Ducat's ploy almost immediately, as Galore-class vessels would be set up in a position for an obvious trap. While there was now a hole in the Dominion lines, it was apparent a trap was there to lure in Starfleet forces into the breach and then close in around them, creating a kill zone for all of the vessels. Unfortunately, with no other options available, Sisko orders Galaxy Wings 9-1 and 9-3 to attempt to hold back the Galore vessels, and then the rest are to go into the breach. Once the entirety of the Federation's forces were in the kill zone, the Dominion utilizes a rotating EM pulse to shut down all communications, and Starfleet's lines absolutely crumble. Starfleet ships would begin to be shredded, and ultimately they would break off into individual fights with either one ship by itself or a few Federation ships making a last stand. Sisko had led Starfleet forces into a slaughter, and now the Dominion had split them up and were killing all of them off individually one by one. We'll get more into the bloodbath after this. Hey guys, this video is sponsored by the author of Providence Ends, the expanded edition. 5 people, 5 stories, 1 inescapable foe. Not only does the book, Providence Ends, give you a great story that includes 2 superpowers that are embroiled in a Cold War that could ignite at any point, but the expanded edition gives you a complete breakdown of the world, its technologies, the people, and world building overall. And let's face it, if you're watching this channel, you're definitely the kind of person that would be into an in-depth and thought-out universe. Also, as of the upload date of this video, the book is only 99 cents on Kindle, less than $1. Come on, I put this up for everyone to see without a paywall, and it's not exactly a cheap process on my side, so if you'd do me a solid, click the link below and check out the book. I'd really appreciate it. Supporting my sponsors helps the channel, so please consider getting this really great book for an unreasonably good price while it lasts. Now let's just get back into it. It appears that we are about to see the destruction of Starfleet's assets entirely, and it would be that if not for the arrival of the Klingon Defense Force. Though no one knew or saw them coming for some reason. Well, until they were literally on top of both forces. I guess long-range sensors weren't working for either Starfleet nor the Dominion. Also, here's a thought. Instead of the Klingons assisting Starfleet at this battle, why didn't they just assault Deep Space Nine? DS9 was undefended, and the Klingons could have simply bypassed it altogether. Again, I guess, like the long-range sensors, it just wouldn't look as good on the episode, so there we have it. The Klingon distraction would give some relief to Starfleet forces as the Dominion found itself surrounded and having to fight on two fronts. Though, even with this sudden surprise, the hole in the Dominion lines that briefly formed allowed for the Defiant to escape, but it wouldn't allow for any other ships. Any other vessel that attempted this maneuver would be destroyed. Now, looking back at the battle, we don't exactly know how it ends. We know that Starfleet wins, just not how. We do know that Starfleet will take some massive hits, and personally, I think that Starfleet forces were all but obliterated when you consider that less than half of the ships would break through the lines and be making their way to Deep Space Nine after the Dominion forces were defeated. This would ultimately make it a Pyrrhic victory, but again, that all remains up for debate. We don't have a full breakdown of all the ships that were at the battle, but according to Memory Alpha, we do know of some. This would include the USS Centaur, fate unknown, the USS Cortez, fate unknown, USS Defiant, which survived, the USS Hood, which survived, the USS Magellan, fate unknown, USS Majestic, destroyed, the IKS Rotaran, which survived, the USS Sarek, fate unknown, the USS Satak, which was destroyed, the USS Trial, which survived, the USS Venture, which survived, as well as several Klingon birds of prey, including 3 that would be destroyed, over 3 Vorcha-class attack cruisers, over 7 Akuras, multiple Excelsior-class starships, and over 9 Galaxy-class ships. Not even to speak of the innumerable amount of Miranda-class vessels that were there. We would additionally have Steamrunner starships, Saber-class starships, and of course the Federation attack fighters that had been discussed before. On the Dominion side, we don't really know the losses there, but it would be significant, and that's not even including the 2,800 ships that were definitely lost due to Deus Ex Profit. While definitely a significant victory, Operation Return was probably not as important as people would like to believe. It was ultimately a stalling measure at best. One that had to happen, to be sure, but it was basically something that just kept the Dominion at bay. Starfleet and the Klingon Empire were still getting the holy hell beat out of them and could not sustain the war for a long time. Projections still show that they were going to lose. But all of these are my thoughts and interpretations. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below.